Hey ladies and gents, welcome back. This is going to be part 3 of What If Naruto Was the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. So, that being said, there's no like goal or anything like that. Make sure to leave any comments for future what if ideas that you have below, and if you don't mind, come on, you might as well subscribe if you're here. So, let's just jump right into the what if itself, right where we left off, which was the start of pretty much where the tuning exams were going to be beginning, or, right after they get back from the Land of Waves mission. So Kakashi pretty much explains to them what the Chunin exams is and asks them if they would like to partake in the exams this year. Everybody says yes, obviously, and they decide that they, do. So Kakashi says, alright, cool, starts in a few days, and they all just kind of do whatever they do for the next few days and train and, do things. Sakura probably simps for Sasuke a little bit more, the usual, and eventually the day comes around where the Chunin exams is going to start, which obviously starts with the written portion of the exam here, which Sasuke and Sakura are both able to do how they do in the original, and Naruto, not only being a lot smarter than his original self, but also having the Rinnegan, which is an evolved version of the same thing that Sasuke used to copy people, he would obviously be able to either copy people or just answer some of the questions on his own. So, with him being able to do this, this means that they all pass, and the next portion of the exams would begin, which is the Forest of Death. So, the Forest of Death beginning, everybody shows up, and they find out that they just need to, defeat another team and get the opposite scroll that they have. They have the Heaven, they need somebody with a demon, or I think that's what it's called, or yeah, whatever. They need the opposite scroll so they can have both, and then they pretty much have to get to this ending point in order to pretty much pass the exam. Everybody's like, oh, okay then, and they head off into the forest to start the actual, Forest of Death part of it. So, with them heading into the forest, the start of it would actually be pretty similar to what it was in the original. Everybody is just kind of walking around, there's no big things happening or anything like that, and Naruto has to go to the bathroom, so he does so, but just like in the original, he is attacked by a giant snake. Naruto here pretty easily manages to take down the snake and, goes over to where his teammates are and finds a alternate version of himself there, which is obviously Orochimaru. Now, Sasuke still had that same, I guess you could say, code to see if there's any, imposters or anything like that, but when Orochimaru actually did say the code, Sasuke wouldn't have been, sus of it because he knows that Naruto would most likely be able to remember it, so, that doesn't really cause any suspicion. But there being two Narutos would cause quite a bit of suspicion, as Sasuke and Sakura look at the two Narutos and are basically trying to figure out which one is which, and Orochimaru sees this and decides that, hey, if he can convince them that this is, he is the actual Naruto, then not only can he get rid of the, literal 10 Tails Jinchuriki and maybe do something a little bit with that, but he can also place a curse mark on Sasuke without having to even, fight or do anything like that if he thinks he's his teammate. So, he decides that, alright, he just has to convince them that he is the actual Naruto, and then he can just get rid of that Naruto or bring him to his hideout or whatever he actually plans on doing. So, he decides that, the first step, obviously, is going to be convincing his team that he is the real Naruto, and asks them to ask a few questions that maybe only Naruto would know the answer to, because Orochimaru has been spying for a while, so, you'd think he'd know. So, Sasuke asks Naruto a question that only Naruto would know the answer to. The question is, was Haku a girl or a boy? Naruto smiles at this a little bit to himself, and Orochimaru has absolutely no fucking idea what they're even talking about. The actual Naruto says, he was a guy, sadly, and Sasuke looks at Naruto and it's he just knows that that's the real one now, because the other one just kind of looked there dumbfounded. And this is where Sasuke uses a fireball jutsu on Orochimaru, pretty much melting away the skin that he had, I guess you could say is what it would be called, revealing a completely different face that is obviously not Naruto's. So Naruto and Sasuke begin fighting with Orochimaru here, with Sasuke being a pretty similar, power to what he was in the original, whereas Naruto is much stronger. But even if Naruto is around like Kakashi's level, which he is, at least at like this point in time, he is not really going to be anything comparatively to Orochimaru unless he tries to use some of the chakra of like at least one of the tailed beasts, which he actually has been talking to some of them over the years as time has gone by. One of the tailed beasts that he actually ended up talking to was the Eight Tails, the Yuki, I think his name is. I can't remember, but that's okay. And he ends up using some tentacles that sounds bad, to try and restrain Orochimaru. Orochimaru manages to pretty easily break out of this. It's not like Naruto has complete control over the Eight Tails. It's just like a very small portion of the chakra, so it wouldn't really do all too much to be able to restrain Orochimaru here. So Orochimaru breaks out of it, and he places a curse mark seal onto Sasuke because he is a lot faster than either of them, and decides that for the time being, until he can get in like a 1v1 situation with Naruto, he is going to just kind of like retreat and only worry about Sasuke for the time being. So Orochimaru leaves, and Naruto and Sasuke, Naruto doesn't like collapse from exhaustion or anything like that, but Sasuke still would due to the curse mark, meaning that they still go and pretty much try to like hide for a little bit, and waiting for Sasuke to wake up, and eventually those sound genin end up coming and trying to pretty much finish what Orochimaru started, and they're trying to, finish off the team. So when they do arrive there, obviously Naruto is going to be able to easily shit on them. Even if Lee doesn't show up and like the rest of Team 10, it doesn't even really matter. It was Team 10? I think it's Team 10, it doesn't matter anyway, but whatever. So Naruto ends up pretty easily taking them on. He is faster than sound by quite a bit at this point and is easily able to dodge out of the way of those attacks once he figures out what they're based around. And nobody else can really even do anything to Naruto because he can pretty much one-shot them. So Naruto pretty easily takes them down, and it happens to be that they have the scroll that they needed. So Naruto takes it, pretty much grabs Sasuke, puts him over his shoulder, and he and Sakura begin running to where the end of the actual Chunin exams is. And this is hours before it actually was in the original, just because of how much faster the fight actually happened, along with Naruto and Sakura being able to get there quicker. So they arrive there, and they do arrive earlier than normal, but they still don't arrive before Gaara or anybody like that. So, it isn't anything special, they didn't beat any records or anything. So they end up, getting to the end where the next portion of the exams would begin, or, the preliminary rounds, because there are just too many teams that are still left, so they have to host it. So, the start of the preliminary rounds would be pretty similar. Naruto pretty easily beats Kiba, and the rest of the fights stay pretty much exactly the same, because Sasuke still can't use his chakra, because he still has the curse mark and everything like that. Sakura would still tie in her fight against Ino, and everything like that would go pretty much exactly the same as canon, meaning there's going to be a little bit of a gap here in terms of time to when the finals of the exams are going to happen. So this is a little bit of training time for the team. So is Naruto going to train by himself, or who exactly is he going to go with to train here? Well, because of the fact that he is the Jinchuriki of every tailed beast, and therefore seen as a pretty good asset for the village if he was to get stronger, Hiruzen decides to have Jiraiya train Naruto, and Jiraiya returns back to the village to, begin this training. Naruto would begin training with Jiraiya. How many times have I said training in the last 10 seconds? Way too many. But anyway, Naruto would begin his training session with Jiraiya, and he is pretty easily able to learn stuff like summoning jutsu and things like that, and he actually manages to learn the Rasengan in this time as well, due to just how easily he is able to master jutsus. So the time comes around for the finals of the actual exams to happen, and Naruto would begin his fight against Neji. So, Naruto here with his speed would actually be a little bit faster than Neji, so Naruto would pretty much be shitting on him, and Neji would basically have to go to his last resort, which would be the rotation, at least at this point of time in the series, and Naruto decides to flex a little bit as he holds out his right hand, making a Rasengan in it in order to pretty much counteract the rotation and see if he can outspin it, or whatever he plans on actually doing. Naruto, making his Rasengan, slams it into the rotation and just completely cancels it out. Naruto follows up with a left hook, and just completely knocks out Neji in a single hit, not really having to, expend all of his chakra and use, like, Nine Tails or anything like that to actually defeat him. Naruto does it using his own power, and pretty easily and handily at that. So Neji, takes the L here, and he falls down, and Naruto is declared the winner, and this means that it pretty much opens up the fight for Sasuke and Gaara, which goes pretty similar to canon. Everybody is put under a genjutsu except for Naruto, which means that Naruto follows Sasuke and Gaara sooner than he does in the original, which means he arrives there sooner than he does in the original. So he gets there before Sakura or anybody like that is actually like captured, or like anything has actually happened at this point, and Naruto would begin fighting with Gaara, who actually isn't like a complete, like, weird... he isn't, like, insane or anything like that. He's just a pretty powerful shinobi, and actually manages to, like, defeat Sasuke, and because of the plan that his village had, all of this would still happen, except Gaara, like I said, just doesn't have the One Tails because Naruto has it. So, with this actually happening, this means that Gaara would be a lot weaker than... or not, like, a lot weaker, but he is a little bit weaker than he was in canon, along with the fact that Naruto is a lot stronger than he was in canon, and Naruto defeat him, so that means that Naruto would win here too. Wouldn't even have to use summoning jutsu or, any of, like, the tailed beast chakra. Just him being on, like, literally above Kakashi's level at this point means that he would pretty easily be able to take down Gaara here, and Gaara would, be defeated, and Hiruzen and everything like that all still happens normally. Orochimaru uses a Reaper Death Seal, or not Orochimaru, Hiruzen still uses Reaper Death Seal to try and seal away Orochimaru, but only manages to seal his arm, so he can't use jutsu, and all of that happens just as canon, and this means that this is the end of the original Naruto and the beginning of Shippuden. However, that is where I'm going to leave this part off, so I'll see you guys in part 4? Yeah.